This is a 1-1 match which is very unfair. The 13-year-old boy challenges the NBA basketball star. The basketball star, Tracy, whose height is over 2 meters, is joking around. But a second later, he was approached by a boy. Tracy becomes more cautious after stepping back and throwing the ball into the basket. All the audiences stand up and applaud for this performance. Continuously being overtaken, Tracy is a bit ashamed. He takes off his coat and becomes serious. But the boy still easily comes over Tracy. The boy jumps on, touching the basket. The audiences are very surprised. After a few seconds later, the audiences start reacting, giving the huge applause. The basketball star of Knights is knocked down by a 13-year-old boy. Everything begins with an old pair of basketball shoes. Calvin lives in the orphanage, and he is very fond of basketball. However, he is usually bullied by other boys just because of his tiny body. One day, a nun brings a gift box. Finally, Calvin also has a good pair of shoes to wear. On the shoes is 2 letters, MJ. Calvin can't believe in his eyes. Cabal's enemy robs the shoes, and throws it to the electrical lines. Calvin believes that it's the real shoes from MJ. That evening, it's heavy rain. He doesn't mind it and climbs on a tree, using all his energy to take the shoes. Suddenly, a lightning splashes and makes Calvin fall on the ground. Just after a night, Calvin seems to become a different person. Since he wore that pair of shoes, he looks like Jordan. The manager of Knights wants to sign a contract with Calvin. The manager wants him to be in the team as the factor attracting audiences. The institution director immediately agrees. The 13-year-old boy joins in the team. The audiences coming to see the matches are so many. But the trainer doesn't tend to let him play. The match starts, Knights continuously fails. Calvin raises his hand to greet his idol in the other team. He also encourages his idol. His teammate presses his head down. Keeping failing, the trainer requests to pause the match. He decides to let Calvin play, but he is wearing the new pair of shoes. He is pushed to the ground, but he doesn't dare to touch the ball. After some minutes playing on the ground, Calvin hurries to stop the game. Taking this chance, he runs out of the ground. Everyone doesn't get what's happening. A while later, Calvin changes the new pair of shoes and returns to the ground. This 13-year-old boy opens up an exploit. This boy hits the whole basketball game in the world. He helped Knights become famous from a low-ranked team. Even a basketball star comes to ask for his signature. When battling, the enemy is doing the warm-up while Knights have no one. The whole team is waiting for Calvin to do his homeworks. The Knights have won all the games they join. The boy becomes a legend. However, in the team, a member, Tracy, doesn't like Calvin. He got ashamed the first time he met Calvin. Now, he lost the attention of people around. He is even allocated to be Calvin's roommate. Tracy is so angry but he can't do anything. He sets many banned rules for Calvin, ignores him and goes out. When coming back, the room is full of trash. What makes Tracy angrier is his girlfriend is Calvin's fan. At nights, before leaving, she pulls Tracy to pray together. When sleeping, Tracy can't sleep just because Tracy's snoring. The next day, Tracy is tired and he is scolded by the trainer. Tracy is more and more angry about this boy. He has to go to buy sleeping pills but Calvin keeps following him. In the drugstore, he concentrates on talking and takes the wrong pills. As a result, he falls asleep on the way. Calvin has to drive. However, Calvin is too short, he has to put more tires to be able to drive the car. Calvin hasn't driven before. After hitting around, he had arrived in the hotel. After that, Tracy hears about that from a friend. Calvin drove illegally, thus he was captured. To help Tracy, Calvin received all the sentences. Tracy eventually realizes this kindness of Calvin. They collaborate with each other in the final game. This is the youngest NBA player in history. He has led Knights from a weak team to returning to the game map. In the next 2 matches, they need to win one to enter the final. He used to feel very hopeless in the orphanage. Children in the orphanage all dream of being adopted. Families who want to adopt Calvin are more and more. But Calvin just wants a normal love. He invites Tracy's father to come and reconcile their relationship. Tracy is pissed off and gets in a quarrel with his father. The Knights lost the game that day. This is the last game, they must win. And Calvin is about to be adopted. The institution director doesn't want Calvin leave. He is the money printing machine. He then steals Calvin's shoes and bets on Knights to be the losing team. In the match, Tracy finds Calvin. He had thought a lot, and decided to reconcile with his father. Tracy wants to adopt Calvin, but he hasn't said yet. The couple adopting Calvin arrived. Tracy gave up his intention. On time, the match takes place. Calvin detects that his shoes disappeared. He hurries to come back to the orphanage, and concentrate on his friends. The children force the institution director to hand out his shoes. After coming back, the third round is done. The Knights went over with 21 points. They seem to have no position in the final game. The match hasn't finished yet, all the results are unpredictable. Relying on the perfect combination of Tracy and Calvin, the distance of two teams is shortening. The Knights is lacking 1 point. And the biggest issue appears. Calvin's shoes are broken. He can't continue playing. Tracy cheers him up. He encourages that the winner is not the shoes. Changing the new pair of shoes, Calvin bets on it. He comes over the obstacles of the enemy, and gives the ball to Tracy. In the last minute, Tracy gets the ball and Knights wins. It's the first time they entered the final game. Calvin finally got the respect from the enemy. The power is not from shoes. It comes from the dream. Chasing the dream, and we can overcome all the difficulties.